it's David. Today I'm fitting a USB power socket to the 390 Duke. It's all KTM parts, but there's no reason at all that you couldn't build your own kit if you're into sort of electrics and you want to go off and find the right connectors and then build it all yourself. Let's see what the KTM Powerparts kit comes with. This is the kit that you buy from KTM. It's a Powerparts kit. I think it actually fits probably most of the KTM bikes. So, those to attach the clamp to the handlebar and some padding to go with that. You can download instructions at www.ktm/manuals. Inside the kit we have just a simple cable. This connects to the accessory connection under the bike, which I'll show you in a moment. There are two of them, so we'll deal with that when we look at it. And here is the USB port that will mount where you want it to. Most people will mount it on the handlebars, and it straps on. There are some slots here which are the right size for these tie wraps to go through, and the padding can go around the back to protect your handlebars. So let's look at how this fits to the bike. On the left hand side of the bike we have this cover. Now it takes a 5mm Allen, behind the cover you have the coil, and on this screw here, which goes into this side of the coil, we have a cable. Behind here we have cabling for the wiring loom. I've got a lot more cables behind here than you probably will have, because I've got a piggyback fitted and some of the connectors actually come down behind here. Buried away here at the back behind the horn there's a couple of connectors which have nothing attached. So up behind the horn there are two cables, and they are labelled accessories 1 and accessories 2. One of them is constant power, which means it's permanently connected to the battery and will power whatever you've got plugged into it all the time, even when the key is not in the bike. So it's like the alarm. The downside to that one is that it will drain your battery like the alarm does, and if you leave the bike for a long time without running it, then you'll come back to a flat battery. The other is switched power, and that only works when the ignition is on. And if you're looking to plug in something like a GPS unit or to charge your phone while you're riding or anything like that, then switched power is what you want, because you don't run the risk that your battery will be flat the next time you try and start the bike. Having identified where your cables are, now let's go up to the handlebars and decide where we're going to mount this. Now you don't have to mount this on the handlebar. If you wanted a more stealth mounting, you could mount it down below on one of the frame rails. It depends on what you're powering and where you're going to be plugging it in and how much cable you've got. Certainly if you like a nice clean handlebar, then you might want to tuck this away somewhere, because it's quite a big unit. I'm going to try mounting just here, but bear in mind there's a curve in the handlebars here which is probably going to make it a little bit difficult. I want switched power so that it only comes on when the ignition is on, so I don't drain the battery, and that's accessories 2 or ACC 2, depends on how it's labelled on your bike. So that's the one I need to connect to this. Now while we're here, if you note, because while we can see it, one wire is black, one wire has a red marker on it. Now the KTM manual, if you read it, doesn't tell you to connect these in any particular order, and I don't really understand why they didn't provide a connector that looks like that to plug this into. Doesn't make any sense to me, but that's how it is. So I'm going to try and plug it in here and put the cable out the way so that I've got as stealth a connection as I can get away with, just tucking away under here. So the first thing I've done is I've taken a bit of pad, I've cut that down so that it's only as big as it needs to be, and in actual fact I could cut that down a little bit more, but bear in mind you may wear the paint on your handlebar from the zip ties. Now that's quite tight getting in there, so the first thing I'm going to do is, before I attach anything, is to get a zip tie in there and make sure that I have it the right way around. So just check I've got the orientation right. Yep. Get cable tie in there. Get this the right way around. So I've got the handlebar end there. Get the cable tie into the groove here. Now I'm going to move my cable tie end out of the way. Not do that down too tightly. Those completely out of the way so that those don't snag your fingers, and once I've got it all installed I'm going to tighten those down, get this in exactly the position I want it, tighten those out, cut the ends off cleanly so there's no sharp edges on those. We want plenty of movement in this cable if you're attaching it to the handlebar. I want to try and unroll that cable too. To keep it neat, what I've done is I've fed it down here next to the switch wiring. So it comes out here and will tuck down into here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to route it here, and we want all of this slack, because if you have this, if you do it with the handlebars straight like this and then you pull that tight, when you pull this it's going to pull more cable through. So I'm going to run it down there. I think I'm probably just going to clip a cable tie onto those once I've got it all in place and check it's okay to do so, so that that stays neat and it looks factory. Now this one's a bit more difficult. What I want to do is to snake it under this piece here, down and into there, and that will bring it out roughly where we need it. Now you could remove all the fairing here if you wanted to. It would make life a lot easier, but I think it's too much work for the little bit of fiddling around to get the cable in. Get the coil out the way. So that you've got a little bit more finger room, but don't forget that wire that needs to connect onto that coil bracket. One of these has got a red cable, it goes into this top one here, and one of those connectors also has a red wire on it, or a red marking. The other is black, so I'm going to plug that one into there. I'm probably going to spray a little bit of contact cleaner in here just in case there's any corrosion. To create some more space, I've just unbolted the horn because now I have plenty of space to work with. So let's just make sure I have still got accessories 2. No, that's accessories 1. So accessories 2 is what I want. There we go. They're going easy one way round. So what we need to do now, before I close this all up, put the horn back on, put the coil back in, is to check that works. And it works only on the switch. Okay, switch power. On when the switch is on, off when it's off. I did have to fiddle with the wires a little bit to make it work because it didn't work first time round, but now it does. Now I can finish off and put everything back in place. Now don't forget that goes on there. And this can be a little bit fiddly. Getting those lined up. Make sure everything still works. Okay, we're good to go. And remember, if you wanted permanent power, then use accessory 1, and you can always fit 2 of these so that you've got 1 permanent power, 1 switch power, and you don't have to have it on the handlebar. So long as it's close enough to whatever you're powering, it'll do the job. I might change my mind. I might well move it down here onto one of the frame rails where it's out of sight, because if I'm using, say, if I'm charging my phone, say, I'm going to have a cable at least this long. It's going to go wherever I want to plug it in. So you don't have to have it sitting up here in the way, in sight, spoiling the cockpit area of your bike. So there we go, a simple install for putting USB power onto the bike, either switched or permanent power, with a choice of where you want that power connected to be depending on what you're powering, and using the built-in cables that KTM supply for this purpose. You could easily make these cables up yourself, but it's not that expensive to buy. Little bit fiddly to get the wires all in the right places. So thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon.